Hello! Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching this. Um, so let's get going. Um, so today we are going to be looking at trade and industry. Um, Mostly, one of the big things that you need to pay attention to today will be um, the least cost theory. Um, that's gonna play into your assignment today. So make sure you catch that. Um, and yeah, so we're gonna go through. We're gonna look at a couple terms that are dealing with like business first. So very first one. So we have brick and mortar businesses. So these are our traditional businesses with actual stores, that people are going to and walking in the store and purchasing things from that store. So this is in opposition to, say, like an online store, right, where there might not actually be a physical store that you're going to, right, because you're just ordering it online. So brick and mortar businesses, right, are your physical businesses and shops that you can actually go to. Fordism. This is something that is attributed to Henry Ford, and it's a system of standardized mass production. This is like assembly lines when you're thinking of factories and stuff. Fordism is having kind of that mass production with that. All right, so agglomeration. This is where we're grouping together a lot of different things from the same industry in a single area, so that essentially the different businesses can work together and use the same infrastructure and share labor resources. So we're going to see a lot of things with agglomeration today. A good example of this would be in Utah, if you're out by like Daybreak in the Kennecott copper mine. So we have the copper mine itself, right? Out there they also have like copper smelting and copper refineries. So right, those are three different businesses and levels of like processing, but they're all located like roughly in the same area. And so they're using, right, people who live in the Salt Lake Valley, a lot of them work there. For all of those things that all deal with copper. Deglomeration is where an industry is dispersed, right? So it's spread all out. And a lot of times, so these industries used to be in an agglomeration, right? But now they're spread more out, right? They don't have to be next to each other because of like modern transportation or things like that. They can be more spread out. And so they're no longer close to each other. A conglomerate operation is a firm that's comprised of many smaller firms that serve several different functions. So this is where you have a company that maybe part of the company goes and is over like mining or getting those raw materials, and then another smaller company under your larger company takes those raw materials and processes them, and then, right, maybe you also have like a retail element. So this would be like if there was a clothing company that owned the factories where they made the clothing, but also the retail stores across the country, right? So that would be a conglomerate operation. All right, so least cost theory. So this is a concept developed by Alfred Weber, or Weber if you're from here. I think it's Weber. To describe the optimal location of a manufacturing establishment in relation to the cost of transportation labor. So transporting your stuff costs money. Surprise. So that costs money. And then, of course, having people, right, and paying people to make this stuff, that also costs money. So when you own a business, you need to figure out where your business location should be that's going to cost you the least amount of money. if you're a good business owner, right? So, you want your transport costs to be as low as they can with as much, good labor as you can. So Weber made certain assumptions regarding location. So according to his theory, first of all, the topography is uniform. So there's no mountains, no, any crazy things going on. Everything across the surface of the earth is uniform. Number two, transportation costs are the same throughout his triangle, throughout the area. Now in real life, that's not always the case. In some places, transportation costs more than other places. And number three, the area in the triangle has similar cultural and economic values. Once again, where your factories are, raw materials, labor, market, all that kind of stuff, that might, traverse international boundaries. You might have different cultural values. You might have different economic values. And then number four, which I can't see my picture when I'm doing this, but I'm assuming my picture's covering most of it, so I'm sorry. Number four, labor is infinitely available at any production point in the triangle. So according to him, it doesn't take into account where people already live. It just says that people are available anywhere inside that triangle. So what we're looking at is, so up here, the market, this is where people are going to buy our good. Down here is, so like one thing that you need, so let's say this is like your labor force, and then over here is like the other thing you need, let's say that's raw materials, right? And then you're wanting to put your factory a distance that you don't have to ship your stuff super far to get to the market. You don't have to ship it super far, right? You don't have people driving too far, right, to commute to work. And you don't have to ship your raw materials too far either. Situation factors, so this plays into this theory, but situation factors, this is the features of a location's surrounding area, especially as related to the cost of transporting raw materials and finished goods. So really, one of the most important things about this theory is like that transportation aspect. So situation factors would be like, is it easy to ship here? Can we get the things here? What raw materials are around here? Stuff like that. Couple things with situation factors. So manufacturers, the people who are making the stuff, right? So they both buy and sell things. Okay. It costs money to transport stuff. Manufacturers want to make money. I mean, that's why they're doing it. As they want to be as close as possible to both buyers and sellers. So if you are, say, at that primary or secondary level of industry, you want to be by people who will buy your stuff, right? As well as people who can sell your stuff as well. Anyway, if the cost of transporting the final product is the most expensive, the best location is as close as possible to the market. So let's say it really doesn't cost so much to, get steel to the factory and to have labor there, but the finished product is so big or so hard to transport that transporting at the end is the most expensive thing. Then they want to have that as close to the people who are going to buy it as possible. If inputs are more expensive to transport, a factory should locate near the source of inputs. So inputs are like those raw materials. So here is a map of the copper industry in the United States. So note the green dot near the bottom of the Great Salt Lake, that's the Kennecott copper mine. But if you notice around it, so the green dots are mines. The red triangles are the smelters, right? So they're like melting it down. And then the orange, oh my gosh, not orange. It's blue. It's blue, Mr. Sword. Hello. The blue are the refineries. So if you're looking at a map of the United States, most of the time, your mines, smelters, and refineries are going to be right by each other, with the exception of the mine that's up in Montana. I believe that's Butte. I could be wrong. And then there's a refinery, like a big refinery in northern Texas. But for the most part, right, they're sticking next to each other due to the shipping costs and like where the labor is and stuff like that in these places. If you also looked in like those parts of Arizona, you'd be like by Phoenix and Tucson and, you know, some of the bigger cities. Up in Utah, it's by Salt Lake, Tooele, you know, out there. This one is integrated steel mines. So the red circles are the integrated steel mines. Integrated meaning they're mining, but they're also like refining and smelting all in one. It's all together. It's integrated. The historical location of steel industries is in the green, and then so major iron ore deposits is in like that kind of mauvish pink color, and then the brown is the coal deposits. So the reason why they put coal deposits on this one is because it takes a lot of energy, right, to melt down like iron, and a lot of times they'll use coal, especially historically, and so a lot of these industries are going to be where the coal is, because that's how you burn the coal, you get enough energy, you can melt the iron ore. Site factors. So this is a place's physical features related to the costs of business production, such as land, labor, and capital. So an acre of land in Wyoming is going to cost less than an acre of land in Manhattan, New York, right? So where you put your business, right, especially if it's production like factories, a good chunk of that's going to be thinking about, okay, well, where's the land most expensive? How easy is it to get to that place, that land? Where are all the people, right? And that kind of stuff too. Situation factors don't explain growing importance of Japanese and other Asian manufacturers. That's kind of where site factors will come in. The cost of conducting business varies among locations depending on the cost of 3 production factors. We're looking at land, labor, and capital. So site factors, you got your land, labor, capital. Okay, those are the 3 things you need to know. This is a map of Japan relating to like their major industrial areas is kind of that grayer color. See, we got gray. A lot of it's along the coast. Why do you think it's on the coast? I feel like I'm like Dora the Explorer right now. Where is it, children? Just kidding. It's transportation, right? So it's easier to put stuff on a boat, to ship it, if you're on the coast. Okay. So a lot of these things that they're doing, it's going to be on the coast, based on the coast. And then in the smaller dots, they actually have like hydroelectric power, atomic power, conventional thermal. So there's lots of volcanoes, so they use like a lot of like geothermal energy. That's right. And if you look at where those little tiny circles are, they're also along the coast. So it makes sense to have a lot of your manufacturing and production along the coast because, first of all, that transportation. Second of all, that's where the power is. That's where the people are. Right. All that kind of stuff. Also, most of Japan is like mountains down the middle. So kind of hard to have a factory there. All right, fixed cost. So let's look at the bottom one first, just the regular fixed cost. So fixed costs are costs that do not fluctuate or change depending on the quantity ordered. So let's say I want to order a bunch of stickers, right? If I order 500 stickers versus 5 stickers, right? Let's say this place does free shipping, right? And so the fixed cost would be the shipping. Like no matter what, it's always the same price for shipping. I know other companies will do like a fixed cost for shipping that's like $8. Like just across the board, it's always $8 kind of a thing. But yeah, so these are costs that do not fluctuate. So like no matter what you're buying, how many you're buying, that's always going to stay the same. Spatially fixed costs is where an input cost in the manufacturing that remains constant wherever production is located. So it's like, it's based on location, basically, is what this is trying to say. So the spatially part of it is like, okay, well, where your production is located and where those natural resources, that input, right, those input things are located, that is what's going to create the cost, and it's always going to be fixed if you're always in the same place. Variable costs. So variable costs are costs that fluctuate based off of the volume of the order. So if I was ordering 5 stickers or 500 stickers, I'm going to pay a lot more for 500 stickers than I will for 5. So that would be a variable kind of cost, right? Like the more things that I order, the more I have to pay. Spatially variable costs is where the input costs in the manufacturing changes significantly from place to place, and its total amount and its relative share of total costs. So once again, depending on where you are, it's going to fluctuate more or it's going to fluctuate less, but it is going to fluctuate depending on where you are. So if I live, so variable costs might be like shipping something to my neighbor versus shipping something to Colombia, right? So variable costs, I'd have to pay more to have something shipped to Colombia. So the world's major manufacturing regions are found in northeastern United States, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and East Asia. There are some other little spots where we have manufacturing regions. Those are shown in like the red dots, versus the major manufacturing regions are that kind of brown color. Okay. Industrial regions in North America, right? So here's a closer look. If you remember back from that steel map, so these are pretty close to like lots of coal. There's lots of natural resources in this area. If you also notice, they're all pretty close to a larger body of water. Once again, shipping, right? This is manufacturing value change. So the size of the circle indicates manufacturing value. This is from 1997. The data, right? This map was made in 2005, so it was all old. But the growth of manufacturing from 1972 to 1997, the blue shows that the manufacturing grew faster than average, the purple is average, and the red is slower than average. So this is showing like the amount of manufacturing in like the country. We have some areas that, you know, were starting to have more manufacturing, and then other areas, right up by like New York, Chicago, in that area, Detroit, they started to decrease how much stuff they were manufacturing. This one is Western Europe. Okay, so we got United Kingdom, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, part of France, into northern Italy. Okay. This one is Eastern Europe and Russia. And this one's East Asia. This one goes into like some specifics like cotton, coal, iron ore, and the major manufacturing region. And then the red would be like other manufacturing centers, like specifically like cities. So like Seoul in South Korea, or Taipei, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Beijing, right? All right, and then time-space compression. So this word, I think it was in the very first unit. I think it was a vocab word, but this is where how it relates to today is we're seeing an increase in the efficiency in the delivery process by diminishing distance obstacles. So rather than having to send like all your business communications through like physical mail, email, right, speeds that up, brings those factories closer, essentially. Even though they're not physically moving closer, the communication is closer and faster. Fax machines. A lot of companies still use fax machines, which I think is super kind of crazy. So rather than using email, they'll fax. I just think of like, if you guys have seen the TV show The Office, like every now and then Pam will be like faxing. If you don't know what a fax machine is, you should look it up. You like put the paper, you have to like dial the number. It's like calling someone, right? You dial their number and then you put the paper in and it essentially scans it. And then the other person who has the fax machine, it like prints it off. It's like a email printer kind of. All right. So for your assignments today, so you're going to be doing a short FRQ. So I'll come up. There's no time limit. Okay, but it will take you a minute. Let's preview it real quick so you can see it. So this shows ethanol manufacturing plants in 2007. So ethanol is they put ethanol in like gasoline. It's made by corn. So they take corn and essentially make gasoline out of corn. And so right here we're looking at map and we have acres in corn by county. Okay, and then we have the circles are existing plants or plants under development. So those are things that are making that ethanol. So anyway, you're going to go through, you're going to answer some questions. Just do your best. And yeah. You guys are doing great. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you have any questions, please email me. And yeah, that's about it. I miss you guys. See ya.